As we watch Ryan swim, what we're going to see straight away is we've got a decent body position in the water. And when we start any swim stroke, we look at body position. Let's forget about the arms, let's forget about the rocking and rolling of the shoulders, and now let's start looking at those legs. You can see here that Ryan's legs, he's got his toes pointing down towards the bottom of the pool, and he doesn't kick his legs up and down. He almost does a half breaststroke kick. So we really need to focus on getting him to kick from the hip, point his toes like a ballerina, and really work on getting to kick those legs in a nice straight line. Now, let's have a look at his arm action. And we can see here that his hand goes into the water right over the top of his head, to the point that he's actually putting it in on top of his left shoulder with his right hand. Now, when you put your hand into the water, what we've got here is a yellow line, which is the center line of his body, believe it or not. The yellow circle is where his hand goes into the water. The red circle is where we want it to go into the water. And I've split it into 3 zones. Now just watch where his hand goes and how far across it actually comes. It's already right across his left shoulder, and then it's going to go even further across, so it's right over here, and all he's doing is moving from side to side, and we still haven't got the hand into that zone 2. We've got 3 zones: the zone right in front of his head, then zone 2, which is elbow to wrist, and then beyond the wrist is zone 3. And you can see what's going to happen. He's going to bring his hand now underneath his body, but we haven't finished yet with the twisting and the shaking. We need to put his left hand into the water, and this is going to go into the water in a very similar action, not quite as profound, but it's still similar, and it goes in right across that center axis again. I haven't moved that yellow line, but look how much his body's moved from side to the other side. So now as his left hand goes into the water, he's moved his whole body back across the pool. He's not just moved his arm and his hand, he's actually moving his head as well. And as Ryan breathes through his side, he's starting to breathe just here, and what he's doing is he's moving his head, and he's actually lifting his head out of the water. So how do we fix that? Well, we go back to the beginning and we say, right, body position, let's nail that. And that, to be fair, his body position is pretty good. Then we look at his leg action. Now we really need to solve that leg action, because the leg action there is going to really slow him down through the water. And then we need to start working on the arm action, and we need to slow everything down, take all the competitiveness out of it, take all the training out of it, and really put the emphasis on technique. He needs to do a huge amount of things like long arm doggy paddle, like catch up, so he's got an arm out in front of him so he can use that arm and guide his hand into the water. You can see his head's too high as he pushes off the wall. We just need to push that down a little bit. But what we really need to do is get him to put his hands in front of his shoulders, not in front of the shoulder on the other side, but in front of the shoulder here. And we really need to emphasize getting that hand into the water and pulling the water straight down the line of the body. Now, what we're going to do now is have a quick look at what he's doing underneath the water. And we can see from underneath the water, as he pushes off, you can see quite clearly that his head's just a little bit high. But look at his legs. You can see where his legs are kicking from. It's quite clearly kicking from the knee. And we need to kick from the hip. Point those toes. Nice long legs, pointy toes, and kicking in an up and down action. And then we need to work on the arm action. As the hand goes into the water, it must go into the water and away from the body. It's got to go in and away. And then once he's caught the water, he needs to pull the water back along underneath his body, or alongside his body, parallel to his body. What we're going to see in a moment is just as his hand goes into the water, he's going to drop his elbow. And what we can also see here is he's putting his hand over his head. So as you can see, that's his head in the bigger circle, the smaller circles where his hand's going into the water. And we follow that through, and you can see that his hand then goes into the water. And as his hand goes into the water, he drops his elbow. And what I've marked there is with a red arrow, because he's dropped his elbow, what he's going to do is pull with his elbow and not actually pull with his arm. And what I've tried to do here is show where the blue line is where his hand should be, so that he can push the water back rather than pulling his elbow back. You see, he's still not got his fingers pointing down towards the bottom. And because his fingers don't point down towards the bottom of the pool, he's not actually pulling the water. He's actually sort of pushing his hand down on top of the water.